Hey everyone, welcome back to Old Eagle Garage. This is Coop. I'm here at Fort Donelson Battlefield in Dover, Tennessee. It's in the western part of Tennessee, for those who don't know. We're going to be going through the whole park. We're going to look at some cannon emplacements by the river, also some earthworks. So let's get started. We're going to start our exploration today here at the, it's actually stop 2 on the tour. I guess officially the entrance down to where the cannon emplacements would be by the water. I'll explain a little bit about exactly where we're at, geographically anyway, so you kind of understand. But first we'll take a look at some of these earthworks. Now, from what I understand, these are original earthworks that were completed by the Confederate Army when they held Fort Donelson, and then improved upon somewhat when the Union Army took this over. And we'll kind of get into that just a little bit about how that happened, what led to it. But also, from what I understand, I am by no means a Civil War expert, so if anybody has anything to add it in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Fort Henry, which is on the Tennessee River, was taken by Union forces led by General Grant, which then led to the capture of Fort Donelson, which he led his ground forces overland to Fort Donelson, which is on the Cumberland River. That's where we're at now. And also in unison, there was ironclad ships that came down, Union ironclads that came down the Cumberland River that assisted in the capture of Fort Donelson. Very decisive win for the Union. I know somebody may say, well, without it, the Union wouldn't have won the war, but without a lot of victories, they wouldn't have won the war. But this was very decisive for them, capturing Fort Henry and then Fort Donelson. You can kind of see the earthworks that go all the way back into the woods there. The Confederacy wanted to hold this at all costs, but they were vastly outnumbered by the Union forces that came overland from Fort Henry. And so they were only able to hold it for a few days once the siege started. I'm not going to read this whole thing for you. Hopefully it's coming through pretty clear, I think. You can pause it if you need to read. This has an explanation of what defenses were located here, Confederate defenses. Here we are on the backside, the defendable area behind the earthworks. There's a cannon emplacement here. Now, I don't know if there were cannons located in this area during the Civil War or not. They're obviously here now. Probably more for tourism reasons than actual historical reasons, but it is really cool to see. And you can see standing up on top of the earthworks here and looking down. I don't know if the camera here really does that justice or not, but this is considerably elevated. And you can see the trench that is here that a soldier would have to cross through in order to advance up these earthworks would be very significant. That is probably 12 to 15 feet deep, that trench, from the offensive side of the earthworks. And then they would have to advance up this very steep hill in order to make it over there. So they would, at all costs, find another route around these earthworks if they at all could. Obviously, the advantage is for the defenders in this type of terrain. But you can see while walking on top here of the earthworks just how daunting that task would be to advance up these inclines while you're attacking. It would be very significant, very taxing, and you're extremely exposed during that maneuver. Here we are further down the earthworks here, the line. We've got another cannon emplacement here. Take a look at that. Again, I don't know the historical accuracy of where these cannons are placed now, if that was something that was where they were when this battle took place. This one here, I'm not real sure. It doesn't look like long range artillery. It would look more like anti-personnel cannon to me. But again, I am by no means an expert in military or anything like that, so don't take my word for it. But if anybody does know, I would appreciate them just leaving a comment. And you can look and see that right over there is the water. That's the Cumberland River, and we're headed over there shortly. But you can see this line extends all the way to the water there. We're further down the line now. Right over there is where we last were. That was where that cannon that we just looked at is sitting. And you can see we're still standing on the earthworks here. That's a trench that's right in front of me here. And there's the Cumberland River. We'll go down there in a little bit. But this would have been a defensible area from the water should any ground forces land and make an amphibious assault. Then this would have been somewhat of a fallback area, I would imagine anyway, for the defenders. And you can see behind me here, and of course that's going back to the entrance where we first were. The elevation changes, the terrain here would have been harsh to navigate. Very taxing, fatiguing to an already tired unit. Alright, here we are down by the water on the Cumberland River. Fancy boat going by there. You can see the gun emplacements used to defend the fort from the water. Maybe we'll go down there in a second and get a closer look, but I wanted to film these. Hopefully you can see that okay. Make it out. If you need to, just pause. Read that. You can see right down there would have been when they first saw the ironclads coming down the river, which I would imagine would have been terrifying, not only for the soldiers here, but for the soldiers on those ironclads, especially when these large caliber guns started to fire. You can see that it's not a very wide river, and it's also not very deep, so that would have been they would have just trained all of their cannons into that area there and started firing. Just by the sheer volley of fire, they would have hit something, so that would have been quite the task for the Union Navy coming down the river there. Again, just sorry for the shadow of the GoPro, but maybe you can read that, I hope. This explains who the commanders were, two captains of the Confederacy that their forces defended here on the water. We'll go down and take a look. I'll say this is very nicely set up. They have a stairs here to get down. You don't have to really do a lot of crawling. Really nice. And I've been coming here since I was a kid. We took a couple field trips here, which was kind of sparked my interest in the fort when I was a kid. And I've come here as an adult multiple times. See, I don't know how close this replica is to what it would have been like, or what these cannons would have been set up like during the Civil War, but you can see that's how they adjusted their elevation. And if they wanted to swing the gun from left to right, you can see here it's on these wheels, and you can see a little bit of the track that wheel would have moved on. So they could have moved significantly from side to side depending on where they needed to train their cannon. This is called the Upper Water Battery. Gives a very good vantage point. As you can see, from up there is where we were a while ago, looking down the river, and now these guns that would have been at this battery would have also had a different vantage point. As you can see, they were quite large in caliber. This one would have been obviously for short range, but that gun there would have been for a significant distance. So they could have engaged the ships as they were coming down the river as soon as they got into sight, I would imagine, which would definitely test anyone's resolve. If you heard that cannon go off, you can see it was also on a track, so they could have moved it from side to side depending on where they needed to fire it. Again, there's another smaller cannon also on a track. Here we are, a little further down the river. We were just right around the shore there, where the batteries were at. This is a nice little picnic area. Have a couple tables. They have trash cans down here. And up, see the car there, there's a parking lot. Up on the other side, there are bathroom facilities down here too, which is really nice. So definitely encourage you, bring family and some food, relax in the shade, and check out this view. Come on. I always enjoy coming here. You feel how heavy the weight of this place was, but also it's beautiful also at the same time. So I encourage you to come here and check it out. So we're over, I guess what you could call the westernmost part of the fort right now. And that direction right there would have been where the Union forces would have been advancing from. That direction is Fort Henry, and that's where the Union forces came overland. Ground forces anyway, came overland to attack Fort Donelson. Now I think this cannon here would be more like what I think when you think of a Civil War cannon. This looks a lot more like what I imagine anyway. Cool, there you see the elevation. I don't know what you call that. It's where they change the elevation of the cannon. And this one, yeah, that is brass. See, it's even stamped with a number on the back of it. That is really, really cool. All right, let's go over here. Up until this point, all of these markers explain something about the Confederate Army and the forces here that were defending it. This explains the Union forces that attacked it. Again, I hope you can read that okay. You can see the earthworks. There's another cannon right down there. We're not going to walk down there, it's the same as this one. But you can see these earthworks here would have been the first line of defense that the Confederates would have had. These would have been a little more, looked to me, a little more hastily constructed, and probably would not have been used for very long before they fell back that direction to their more permanent defensible positions. But I don't know that to be true. But you can see the terrain leading up through here. probably didn't look a lot different during the Civil War. It was very thick. Elevation changes are dramatic here at LBL. Anybody that's been to Western Tennessee and Western Kentucky knows that a lot of the area is flat, but especially when you get on the west side of the lakes. But at LBL, the terrain is fatiguing, and there's a lot of elevation changes. So, see right here in front of me is these emplacements, or these trenches go all the way to the water, which is right over there. Okay, well, this is where I think I'm going to end my Fort Donelson exploration. It's going to continue though. We've got another really special place that we're going to be visiting here in just a moment. A place that I always, when I come here, I always go to this location. So I hope you enjoy it and stick around. Here at the Stewart County Courthouse. This is still Dover, Tennessee, in the county of Stewart, Tennessee. Just driving by, saw this, and wanted to come by and check it out. Let's see what this is here real quick. It's talking about time capsule. And it looks like they're going to be opening this time capsule July 4th of next year. Pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So this is a war memorial, I'm assuming, for those who served from Stewart County. And you can see they have statues of soldiers here. Those appear to be, I don't know, Korean War, Vietnam War era uniforms. That's obviously a M16A1 rifle that he's holding, so I'm assuming it's going to be Vietnam. But you can see they have World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, and the Iraq War. I'm not going to focus in on any names. You can see some of the names there, but again, I'll maintain a respectful distance from that. But that is, this is really cool. Oh, missed something here. Let's see what this says. That's really cool. These servicemen whose names appear herein gave their lives in the line of duty. So, yeah, very cool, very respectful. It's really cool it's here in front of a courthouse like this, so anybody can stop by and see it anytime. Our next stop here in Dover, Tennessee is going to be the Dover Hotel, which is part of the Fort Donelson National Battlefield Park, part of the Park Service. This hotel was here, it's been here since the Civil War era. We're going to see what this sign says on it. This is my first time being here, even though I've been to Fort Donelson many times. I've never been to this hotel. So it says that it's the Confederate headquarters, Brigadier General John B. Floyd, General Pillow, and General Buckner. So I would have assumed that this fell when the Confederates left, when they retreated. And again, it is right here on the water. Let's walk around the outside, get a look at it. Looks like they've tried to keep it as historic as they can, at least looking historic. Let's see what this sign says. There's a nice little picnic area right out front. This talks about Confederate prisoners that were taken. Very beautiful view here. And from the water side, there's an open sign on the door. Let's go in and have a look around. Okay, just inside the door, there's a lot to look at. So if you'll read this top part here, get a little closer for you. This pretty much explains that it was here at this hotel where the former surrender of Fort Donelson took place. Well, this was unexpected today. I didn't know about this hotel prior to today when I was speaking with somebody at the desk at Fort Donelson at the visitor center. I'm very glad I stopped by. I had no idea the significance of this place. The next place we're going, again, very, very special to me. I like going to this next place. I hope you'll stick around and indulge me and visit yourself. But so there's a little bit more to come, and glad you stuck around this long. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. We're going to be doing this kind of stuff, a lot of this kind of stuff. This is an Americana channel, so we're going to explore things that are important to me. So if it's important to you, then come along and take a look, and by all means, visit these places yourself. Leave a little donation. They may not be around forever, so soak them in and appreciate them while they're here. So stick around. We're going to go, like I said, another place that's near and dear to my heart, and hope you enjoy. All right, we're here at the Fort Donelson National Cemetery. It's just down the road from Fort Donelson itself. It is a national cemetery. It's staffed by U.S. federal officials. Very, very special place to come. There are our nation's veterans are buried here. I'm not going to film individual graves. I don't think that's respectful, so I'm not going to do that. But I am going to film the scenery here and give you an idea of what to expect if you choose to come here, and I highly encourage you to do so. Very, very special. This sign here pretty much says it all. It says hallowed ground on it, and it definitely is. There are service members buried here from the Civil War all the way to modern era, and it's very well kept. I, at least myself, get a sense of pride and reverence when I'm here, and we're just going to walk around and film some of the scenery. I encourage you, if you live in the Western Tennessee, Western Kentucky area, you haven't been here, to stop by and pay your respects, or if you're just passing through. It's easy to find. Parking is right here really close, and it's very special. You won't regret coming here.